Certainly. Hello, how are you? Happy Thursday. I can't quite believe it's Thursday. What a week it has been. We are on day 3 of our alignment series, Unlocking Your Aligned Self. On day 1, we covered self-discovery. Who are we other than our jobs and our responsibilities? I introduced you to what Marcus Buckingham refers to or calls or so eloquently named, the red thread practice, which is something I've taken on with myself and with my clients for, as long as I can remember. And then yesterday we went through self-doubt, where it comes from, what it might look like, and then how to shift. I introduced you to a flow that you can walk you through your self-doubt thoughts through to change them, to shift them. Today, I want to jump into self-permission to pursue joy. And this is a topic that is so near and dear to my heart that I have quietly written a book on the topic. It's still in the editing phase, so stay tuned for that. Who knows how long it'll take? But this is really important to me, this topic, self-permission, and the pursuit of joy. When I first came to coaching, I was burnt out. I was not happy. I was not bored. I didn't feel like a really nice human being. Um, of course, I have high standards for myself, so I'm sure I was nice, just not as nice as I thought I should be. And my coach, right? So when we do coaching, we call everything like an invitation because the client, we believe we know that the client knows what they need. And it's not school, so they have the right, they are expected to advocate for themselves and to say whether or not they want to take on, an invitation, a practice, that kind of thing. When we're first starting coaching, especially people like me, we put on our good student hat. And so, yeah, okay, it's an invitation, but you're like the teacher. This is who I am. I'm going to do what you ask, what you say. But it's actually super helpful. And I think that's part of why coaching was so valuable for me and for my people, or is so valuable for my people. When I first started working with my coach, we think burnout is because we're overwhelmed and we're doing too much. That is true. And what typically leads to burnout is not doing enough of what we love, which is why I started this series with the red threads. Here, right, we're going to talk about giving ourselves permission to follow joy, to pursue joy, to feel joy. And we can't do that if we don't know what brings us joy. Um, so anyway, I started working with my coach. She, invited me to make a list of things that brought me joy as a kid, as a teenager, as a college student, now. at work, outside of work, in all aspects of my life. And then she invited me or assigned, right? Again, it wasn't an assignment. I could have said no, but being the good student that I am and having trust, putting my trust in her as my coach, I she invited me to practice these things that brought me joy, to lean into them, to find ways to pull them in to my life, as I had talked about doing on day one. So some of the things that came up for me when I was doing this was one of the first ones was writing. So as a kid, I used to write a lot. I did have diaries and journals, but my mom used to give me like the old calendars from the year before, and I would put like blank pieces of paper, printer paper, construction paper, on the pages, and then I would write over them, and it would become a literal like book, right? And so I have been writing fiction, all through my early years. And then, in high school, I was on the newspaper. In college, I had my own column, actually, Sex in the University, for a year and a half at Monmouth. And so through this work, I decided to take on a running blog. John and I were out doing trail runs, and we found that, some of the trails that were marked like easy were easy for hikers, but they weren't really running trails. And I decided then that I would, launch this running blog that would talk about the shoes I was wearing and things related to mostly trail running. I did talk about my road running as well and any training I was taking on. But mostly it started as a way to serve other people if they followed my blog, and tell them which trails I thought were more for runners and what things you had to look out for and what made one trail better for runners than another versus trails that we would find that were really for hikers and weren't for runners. I'm sure all of my three subscribers and readers really appreciated it, but it was a way to scratch the itch and bring more joy, right, into my life, bring those red threads into it. And I wouldn't have been able to pursue that if I hadn't given myself permission to do so, and if she hadn't invited me into it. So that's part of what I'm doing here is I'm inviting you into it. Again, like now I'm at a place where I can give myself my own permission, but back then it was so enabling for her to ask me or invite me into this thing, and then for me to say, okay, that is something I want to do, find out what brings me joy and actually pursue it. Some of the other things I did were my mom was English, so she was into embroidery and sewing, right? Sewing was a critical skill that you learned how to do. And so when I thought about joy, I thought about those times I had spent with my mom and the sewing that we'd done. So I pulled out the sewing machine and I bought fabric and I created placemats for our dining room table. And like my clients do now, they're like, is this what I'm really gonna do with my life? Is this the point of this exercise? Um, Also, sewing wasn't as much fun when your mom is not doing the whole setting up of the sewing machine and then plopping you in front of it and kind of letting you go with the sewing. All that setup stuff is kind of difficult and not as much fun, but that's all right. It was worth the try. Um, and again, right there, I gave myself permission because she invited me into it, and and it felt a little bit like an assignment. And so the giving myself permission, yeah, okay, it fed an assignment that I had to do, but it also was a way of me leaning into and leaning into joy and discovering joy and playing with joy and playing with giving myself permission to do things I previously wouldn't have done. Through all of this, right? I'm not a writer. I mean, I write things for social media, and yeah, okay, now I guess I have a book that I've been working on, but that's not how I'm probably going to make my living. And I don't have an Etsy store where you can buy my placemats or other things I've sewn. But through this work, through following the joy, I was able to remember that in college, I had wanted to major in leadership. And because of the school I went to, because of the time, right, that I went to school years ago, leadership wasn't something that you could major in. It was like one class in the HR section, right, of business. And so I intentionally chose finance because I was good with numbers, I was good with strategy, I had a mind for it. And I remember saying to myself, well, I'll just get into finance and I'll climb the leader, and that's how I will pursue leadership. And make the most of something if I can't major in it, if I can't just study it or be it. I knew I didn't want to be a teacher. Um, and so that was what had come out. I mean, yes, there was joy that was experienced from writing and playing with the placemats and the sewing machine. All of that was joy as well. But I share this story for a couple of reasons. One is the red threads. You may discover a red thread that you turn into your career, your business, a huge hobby, whatever it is. It may become a major form of your life, or you may just pull bits and pieces of the red threads and experience more joy throughout the day. Or you may have an experience like I did where almost, it had nothing to do with the things that brought me joy. It was about what I became back familiar with, what I was able to remember about myself and what I wanted and what my dreams were and how I wanted to impact people and what I was really passionate about that may come out of the exercise. So I really encourage you to take on that exercise. If you haven't watched the video, I would encourage you to go back and watch the video and take on that exercise. And this is what happened, right? I changed my life. I have a much more pleasant life. I have a much more joyful life. I have a much more purposeful life. I have a much more fun and playful life. I am more fun and more playful because I gave myself permission to pursue the joy. And that can be true for you as well. Why do we struggle with this? Why do we struggle to give ourselves permission to do anything, I would argue, and to especially to pursue joy? And we do have our fears, and that's what a lot of my coaching is around, is people's fears. We're afraid of judgment, we're afraid of perfectionism or not being perfect, we're afraid of letting people down, we're afraid of getting kicked out of the tribe. And I believe that we actually have been unconsciously or unintentionally conditioned to not give ourselves permission. When we're in our early stages of development, our parents and our teachers, our professors, our coaches, our neighbor, everyone in our community give us permission. We're taught that permission must be given, and it's all with great intentions, right? It's all done with love. It's all done to support us, to keep us safe, to keep us from touching the hot oven, to keep us from running into the road when the cars are coming, right? It's all well intentioned. And by the time we're an adult, we haven't really um, worked this muscle of giving us ourselves permission to follow joy where we find it, to do the things that we want to do. Of course, right? I mean, we do the things we want to do. We choose soccer over lacrosse or whatever, but there is an underlying conditioning that permission is granted. And we have to reteach ourselves that we give ourselves permission. Of course, there are social norms. Of course, there are, rules, or again, social norms we want to follow so that we don't get kicked out of the tribe, so that we don't want to hurt other people's feelings. But we get to give ourselves permission. And these two pieces are why I believe, especially my people pleasers, givers, doers, high performers, we struggle with giving ourselves permission for joy because of these two aspects, because of all the fear behind it, and because we've just not been conditioned to do it. So what I want to go through today is invite you to, yes, think of something that you want to give yourself permission for, and then we'll work our way through it similarly to how we did yesterday. Um, So sorry about that. I should have known this time was perhaps not a great time. If you can hear all the dogs barking in the background, I apologize. Shouldn't last very long. So what is something that you want to give yourself permission? Is it to work less hours? Is it to work more hours and actually focus on work and your career now and know and have faith that your spouse and your kids and your dogs and all of that are well taken care of, that they are set, that they are okay, that they will be okay without you for a time period? Do you need to give yourself permission to take care of yourself? Do you need to give yourself permission to feel? That's a big one for my people. We're doers. We can do anything. We can push through and do anything. We need to give ourselves permission to feel anger, to feel sadness, to feel frustration, to feel disappointment, to feel heartbreak. What is it that you need to give yourself permission to do? Is it, I need to give myself permission to pursue joy? I would invite you to write it down. And as you're writing it down or as you're going through this with me and thinking about what you want to give yourself permission for, what comes up? Similarly, right, to what we were talking about yesterday in the self-doubt and the limiting beliefs, what comes up as you start to think about really giving yourself permission to pursue joy? What would come up for me? Some examples might be joy is for the silly, joy is for the reckless. This is what I used to think. I don't think this now, to be clear. Um, joy is the pursuit of joy is wasteful. It doesn't give you any more money. It doesn't give you productivity. So why bother? Um, what else? This is a big one. I should find joy in the things that I'm doing. Or if I don't find joy in what I'm doing now, that means I'm ungrateful. I don't want to be ungrateful. I'm super grateful. I was super grateful for my corporate job. I got a lot of opportunities with that and I loved my team, right? So if I acknowledge that I need permission to pursue joy, it must mean I'm not joyful now. And then that must mean that I'm not grateful for what I have now. Similar to what we talked about yesterday. Is this helpful? That thought is not going to enable me to give myself permission to pursue joy. I don't know about you, maybe you're different, but me, it's not going to. So let's go through again yesterday to shift it. So when I think, I think that thought of I'm not deserving, or I haven't earned the right to pursue joy, or if I pursue joy, it means I'm ungrateful for what I have. What do I start to feel? I start to feel shame. I start to feel guilt. I start to feel what would I call it? Like not normal, right? Everybody else seems to be fine. Nobody else is asking these questions. So that makes me weird. I might start to feel pressure. I might start to feel sadness or frustration. I might start to feel um, unworthy, not enough. When I'm feeling like this, what happens? What actions do I take on? They're eating twigs. Why are they eating twigs? When I feel guilty, shame, unworthy to pursue joy, like joy has to be earned, what actions do I take on? Well, I probably don't pursue joy. I probably suck it up, buttercup, don't I? I probably do the things that need to be doing, whether or not I want to. And just like yesterday, right? Our emotions, our ability to show up as our 100% best and truest and most aligned self is like a cup that can only fit 100%. And if we are feeling shame and guilt, if we are feeling unworthy, if we are feeling unsure, we cannot do the thing with 100% or as 100% of our best, truest, most aligned self. And so the thing will get done, all of those other things, right? We could pursue joy, but we don't think that we're able for that. So I'm going to do all these other things. And because I'm a little bit, mad, disappointed, not joyful, They're not going to be done as good as they could be done to the best of my ability. Again, my 100% may look way better than somebody else's 100% because I'm a rock star. I'm saying this about you, right? I'm not entirely saying it about me. You're a rock star. Your 100% may very well look better than someone else's. Your 60% or 70% may very well look better than someone else's 100%, but you're going to know, people that know you even might know, but definitely you're going to know that you didn't show up as your best self. What is the result of that? Well, it sure as heck ain't joy. It's more heartbreak. It's more frustration. It's more shame. It's more guilt. It's more pushing. I shouldn't have been outside today. Um, and the result is that whatever we've done instead, right, again, is not up to, I don't want to say par, but our 100%. And you can see how it'll just fuel the cycle, right? So I do the thing, I can't do it to 100%. I feel no joy, which means I haven't earned joy, which makes me feel, shameful and guilty and sad and heartbroken, which causes me to then not take action and pursue joy. It causes me to suck it up, buttercup, even more and do the things. And it's just a cycle. So how do we break that cycle? Well, like we said yesterday, right? What is the result that we want? We want to pursue, we want to give ourselves permission to pursue joy. We want to feel joy. We want to experience joy. We want to try to experience joy. What would we have to take on? What actions would we take on to actually achieve that, to feel joy? Well, we would have to give ourselves permission. No, we would give ourselves permission to pursue joy, but we would have to pursue the things as our 100% self. We would have to find the things that would give us joy. We would have to be aware of the things, that self-discovery, that red threads. In order to feel joy, we must find out what causes us joy. We must be able to take on the red threads and take it on with openness, take it on with enrollment, take it on not as something to check off the list and half engaged in and half not. We want to take it on as our full self so we can see all the things that bring us joy and light us up and fill us with purpose. And how do we want to feel, or how do we think we would have to feel to actually do that? We'd have to feel courageous. I know, again, you want to say confident. Courage comes before confidence. You cannot feel confidence until you have done the thing. You must feel courageous first. So you need courageous. We can put both on the list. You want to feel confident. You want to feel courageous. You want to feel curious, right? I would want to feel curious. I would want to feel worthy. I would want to feel what's the word, like trusted or included, or right, like I'm not going to be kicked out of the tribe for this. I would want to feel ease. I would want to feel grounded. I would want to feel, maybe I'm pursuing joy, but I would want to feel lighter. I would want to feel, a little bit of joy, a little bit of possibility or optimism at pursuing this joy and giving myself permission to pursue joy. And so what is the thought that we would need to think to do this, to give ourselves permission to pursue joy? What is a thought that we could enable? For me, right, and I talked about branding a couple of weeks ago, and this is one of my Rebecca isms, for better or worse. I believe the more we align ourselves and experience more joy, the more love, the more grounding we contribute to the planet, because we're not adding misery, we're not adding anger, we're not adding sadness, right? We're contributing joy, we're helping to lift the planet by contributing those emotions to the planet. I also believe that by us living in alignment, by us pursuing joy, by us allowing ourselves to pursue joy, we light the path for others. Others can see us joyful and say, I want that. How'd she do that? How'd he do that? I want that. Oh, she can do it? Oh, I can do it. She did it? He did it? Oh, I can do that. I can do that. Right? We want to, this is what would empower me to give myself permission to pursue joy is that, right? I know that, or I believe that the more we show up as our best self, the more we show up as our aligned self, and an aligned self without joy sounds like crap to me, to be fair. It doesn't sound any fun. So an aligned life would have to include joy, in my opinion. The more I can show up as my aligned self, the more I'm contributing that goodness and starting ripples, good ripples throughout my community, my family, my friends, my whole community, which who knows, right? Where that will go. I love, 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 love when I have coaching clients come to me and they say, oh, you know that thing we talked about? I told my best friend. I told my husband. I told my sister. And they implemented it. They shifted their mindset. They took on change. Right? It's not about me. It's about this person in front of me, but I have no way of knowing the impact that I can have. The same is true of you if you show up with joy, if you give yourself permission to find joy, to get curious about where joy lies for you. You have no idea the impact that you have on those around you and who they know and who they impact. And what a beautiful thought. You might have to pick something different. Maybe that doesn't knock your socks off or whatever, get your socks off or whatever the phrase is, but that's what lights me up. That's a much more empowered place for me to come and give myself permission to pursue joy. And again, by me allowing myself to pursue joy, I not only, found the path to alignment within myself, I actually discovered like what I really needed in my life to feel like I'm fulfilling my purpose, what lights me up. And the same will be true of you. So, what I'm trying not to give you too much homework because we're doing this daily and you really don't have time to implement too much. But if you're following the series along, if it's interesting to you, if you want to make shifts, the thing I would invite you to take on from today is to write yourself a permission slip. What are you going to give yourself permission to do, to be, to feel, to experience, to lean into, and commit to doing it? And then as you do that, do the flow for what it is that comes up, because I guarantee you're not going to say, oh, I give myself permission to pursue joy and nothing comes up. The stuff is there. It will come up, because if it didn't come up, you'd already be doing it. It has to come up. It will come up. And that's okay. As soon as it comes up, we can work with it. We can be with it. We can see what's there. We can love it. We can thank it for keeping us safe. And then we can shift it. You can schedule time for a personal hobby, right? I'm going to give myself permission to go to the fabric store. I'm going to give myself permission to go to the yarn store. I'm going to give myself permission to go for a walk. I'm going to give myself permission to play with the dog. I'm going to give myself permission to plan a trip or whatever it is that you need to do. But what is something, not life-changing, but simple that you can give yourself permission to do, be, feel, and actually follow through with it by taking on the flow and looking at all the things that come up and shifting it. Your limiting beliefs that come up, how can you then shift them so you actually do give yourself permission and show up as 100% your best, truest, most aligned self? Okay. That's all I have for today. I feel like it was a lot. Hopefully, it was worthwhile and you got something out of it. I would, of course, love to know what you got out of it. You can comment, you can send me a message, you can email me, whichever works for you. And obviously, if you have questions, let me know. I'm happy to talk about this. It's so important. And I will, oh, before I forget, I am doing alignment hour tomorrow, 11 to 8 Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific time, which is 1 o'clock Eastern time, and I think it's 4 o'clock UK time. I remember from my Irish days that there was a time period where we had done um, what's it called, daylight savings, and they hadn't, or they had done it and we hadn't. So I'm pretty sure it's at 4 o'clock um, UK time tomorrow. Um, if this is of interest to you, if you have questions, feel free to come to that and bring them. Feel free to come and watch other people get coached. I've gotten so much value from obviously, getting support and coaching in a situation like that, even if it's only a few minutes, and from watching other people get coached. I take away so much from seeing what they're believing and what's in their way. And oh, that's probably in my way somewhere. Anyway, hopefully I'll see you tomorrow. I'll at least see you on the live. Take care. Have a good night, good evening, the whole nine. And thank you.